So if you don't mind telling us your story.
Not at all. I fell in love when I was 12, but I wasn't allowed to date till I was 16. So you just didn't tell your parents, but we used to go roller skating, and this other person that I fell in love with had an amazing smile. I loved spending time together, and we dated until we were 19, so for 7 years. And we joke that during that time of dating, we figured out that whether you're a Coke or a Pepsi family, that's an important question at that age. And we were both Pepsi. We found out that we both wanted 4 children. So we had everything in common. What more did we want? So at 19 we got married. We had 4 children in 7 years. They were fast. And when we gave birth to our 4th child, which is what we agreed upon, my other half said they had something they needed to tell me. And it's scary. I mean, when you're dating, when you're with somebody and they say we need to talk, all of a sudden your heart races and you think, oh no.
We're gonna break up. Or...
Yep, something's going on. So at that point, I heard that I've always known I was a girl. And this was 1987. There was no internet, there was no way to look this up to find out what that actually meant. So I said, I love you and I can't hold you back. Move out and be the person you need to be.
You look at my fault.
Your turn.
After I told Linda about who I really was, I wanted to transition. I tried it for a little while, but it didn't work well because I loved Linda and we had our 4 children. I loved our children, and I did leave. I tried for a while, but I couldn't stay away. So Linda and I were talking on the telephone all the time, and I said, I want us to be closer. One day I had called home from on the road because I did what my father taught me to do at that age. I was a truck driver and I drove on the road. So I called home often to talk to the children and to Linda. And one of the times I had called home, one of our sons got on the phone and said, when are you coming home, Daddy? Because I had been gone for a while. And that just ripped my heart out because I loved my son. I wanted to be there for him, and I couldn't be. So Linda and I continued to talk, and we agreed that I would come home, off the road, and we would try to work something out. I wasn't allowed to let the children see me dressed up. I couldn't let their friends know. We kind of basically had to hide who I was if I was going to be me. So when there's a child, it's you want the love of your parents, and you don't get that as a transgender person. My parents knew that I was not the person they thought I was, and I made a mistake of telling my father that one time. I think I was 7 or 8 years old, and he just backhanded me. I mean, I got slapped across the face for saying to him, I'm not your son, I'm your daughter. So I never had a lot of love in my life until I met Linda and we had our children. So I didn't want to lose that. So it's a constant struggle as a transgender person to be who someone thinks you are and to be your true self. So for many years, I'd keep transitioning in and out of being female or acting as the male person that society thought that I was. And it takes a toll on a person to continue to do that, to hide who you really are inside and to act as society thinks you need to act. It's hard, not just for transgender people, for any person to have to act a way that they don't think is natural to them. Society says you can't do this, you must do that, so they make life so rigid. It's difficult for everyone, but more specifically for a transgender person. Because we're talking about gender here, Society thinks I'm one person, but I'm really not.
This is not the kind of thing you just decided to be. Right. It's like you were born.
I knew very young. I mean, I knew when I was 4 years old that I was not the person who I was looking back in the mirror at me. And it was just a constant disappointment and struggle for me. For the longest time, I would not look in a mirror because I could not stand the person who was there staring back. It wasn't me. And I would never even identify with my own name. Even up until many years after we were married, any documents I had to sign with my name, I never used my first name. I would only sign my first initial and then my last name. My signature never had my full first name. I did not identify with it. So when I was able to transition, I changed my name legally, and but We struggled for many years, you know, because of my identity, and Linda not sure whether this was something she wanted to be involved with. I mean, you know, she didn't marry a woman initially. So
yes, I did. You've always been.
Well, yes, but you didn't know that.
No.
So it's been hard, but the transition has been the best thing for our relationship because, you know, I don't know if it's for all transgender people. I tend to think it is. That when you can't be yourself, you know, you're struggling with your own identity, and society is saying you need to be someone else, and that constant battle inside, you know, you get to be a bitter person and always angry. And I didn't want to have to be that person. So when I was finally able to transition, you know, in 2009, you know, my life changed. I became a lot happier person, and you know, we worked out with them that what we needed to do. I started my transition in 2009. At that time, you know, Linda was not knowing that this was going on because, you know, again, I was still struggling with my identity, and you know, I wanted to transition to be me. And I knew once that journey began that, you know, because of things that had happened in our past, you know, when she told me to leave when we were young, that she would again tell me to leave as we were older. So I expected that. I started taking the pills to, you know, begin my transition, and I kept that from Linda for several months. But she knew that, you know, just a little joke that her and the children share, you know, because whenever I was transitioning to be Karen, and you know, from the male role, I would always try to hide it. You know, whenever I would, you know, paint my nails in colors, I'd wear socks. Well, here in Florida, it's so hot and humid, you don't wear socks. So they knew when I had socks on that I was, you know, beginning a transition again. But in 2009, I decided it would be permanent. You know, you have to come to a point in your life as a transgender person to decide whether is this what's more important to me, or having that family and that closeness more important to me. Now, it was very close to me, but you can't hide who you are for very long. And it just gets to a point you've got to make the decision. What is it going to be, this or this? You know, it basically becomes, you know, a life or death decision for you, because if I chose to stay in a relationship and remain as the person society said that I was and thought I was, I would end up taking my own life because I couldn't do that any longer. So I decided in 2009, if I have to lose my family, I will. I didn't want that to happen. I hoped it wouldn't happen. And so I tried to hide it initially, but eventually they figured out that, oh, you know, the person's transitioning again. And now I came and I told Linda that, you know, this is who I'm going to be now. I don't want to lose you, but this is who I am. And I'm going to transition completely. So Linda had gone away to visit, you know, our son in Pennsylvania. He had initially moved up there. You know, they're all here now, but you know, back then he lived in Pennsylvania. So she went to visit because they had a child, and she was going to help with the new grandbaby. While she was away, I was working locally, and I was traveling a lot, and you know, in the vehicle and going down to South Florida quite a bit. I was working installing computer equipment, printers and things like that for a medical facility. I was going into doctors' offices, hospitals, and things like that to work on their computers. So, but I traveled the state. So Linda was in Pennsylvania, and I was doing this traveling. And one day I'm driving down the road, and I'm on my way to Fort Myers, which is, you know, south of here. And I had to go over the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. I don't know if you're familiar with that bridge, but it's a very tall bridge down by Tampa.
That's across the bay.
Yes, yes. As I was going up at the bridge in my vehicle, I took out my old cell phone that I had, and I started to record a video. The video was basically to say goodbye to my family, because, you know, when Linda went to Pennsylvania, I thought that our relationship was over, and that when she came back, she was going to ask me to leave again. So I decided, yes, I need to be Karen, but I really can't live without my family. It wasn't going to work. So I had planned to take my own life when I got to the top of the bridge. So I was recording the video and, you know, saying my goodbyes to Linda and to the children. But by the time I reached the top of the bridge, I had this overwhelming feeling I don't know if you believe in a God or anything like that. I really wasn't a believer until recently, but I had this feeling. She rented pew space.
She rented pew space.
In a church. I would never pay attention. Yeah,
I would joke.
She was the seats you sit in here in the churches. I did not like going to church. You know? Anyway, so when I was at Tubman's Bridge, I had this feeling that there was somebody talking to me saying, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this? You say you love your family. This is going to destroy them. You know, you shouldn't do this." And then the next thing was another question came. You know, why would you give the haters a chance to say we got one more? Why would you do that? You know, you're giving them what they want by taking your own life. I don't want you to do this, was the feeling that I got, and I need you to come down off of this bridge. I shut my recorder off, I deleted the video, and I came off of the bridge. I went to my job that day, and I finished what I needed to do, and I came home. This from a person who would not go to church, did not believe in God or anything of that sort. When I came home that day, I got on my computer and I searched for a church locally who supported gay persons, and found that there's a church here in our county that was open and affirming, is what they call it here, that accepted people who were gay, lesbian, and so forth. But they didn't have on their website that they supported transgender persons. But I figured if they like gay persons, maybe they could grow to like somebody like me. So while Linda was in Pennsylvania, again, I talked to her that evening on the phone. I didn't tell her that day that I was going to take my life and what I experienced, but I said to her, "Lynn, I found this church locally. I think we should go visit it." And we did. When she came back from Pennsylvania, we went that Sunday. And when you first walk up to this church, there's usually two people at the doors to open the doors so you can walk in. And they greet you and say, "Hello, how are you?" And they welcomed us when we got there. And I was not completely transitioned yet because it was still very early in my transition. I didn't have my own hair. I was wearing a wig. But that very first time we went, I did not wear a wig, but I had on earrings. I had on some light makeup, and I was wearing slacks and a top that could be identified as male or female. So I was kind of in the middle. But they still opened us, welcomed us with open arms and said, "Welcome to our church. Come on in and feel God." And then I walked inside, and inside the church there are also more greeters, and they greet you and they say, "Hello, welcome to our church, and thank you for coming." To me, that was a really odd experience. It wasn't something I expected because, I went to church with Linda because that was what her family did, and I knew she liked it. But it was just not something I ever experienced and had a good feeling from. But from this church, it felt different. Why are these people welcoming me? I'm a pessimistic person by heart.
Oh no!
I don't have my glass is half full. It's always half empty for me. So we went into this church in the sanctuary, and I said to Linda, "Let's sit in the back. Let's just make sure we can get to the door if there's a problem." So we did. We sat in the back of the church. And the pastor there, he came out and he was welcomed the church members and said, "Do we have any new people here today? We'd like to welcome you to our church. Please raise your hand." Well, Linda and I were not raising our hands to say we're here, but it didn't matter because the people around us were going. They were pointing to us.
No way.
We were.
Not happy. They were pointing at us. They're new. They're new. So, the pastor said, "Well, welcome. Thank you for coming to our church today." Well, everybody stand up and greet one another, which is something this church does all the time. And this is our first experience. So we had people coming from the far side of the church over to meet us and say hello and say thank you for coming to our church today. It was just an incredible experience. It's something I never felt before. But as a pessimistic person, I said to Linda, "This is not right. I don't believe it yet. Let's go one more time." So the following week, when we came back, I wore a wig and I wore a dress that day to see if I would get the same reception. We came to the front doors of the church. The two people who were there the week before, same two people, said, "Well, hello, welcome back." We walked inside the church, same kind of a greeting. The persons who were inside, "Thank you for coming back." Well, there was also, on the far left-hand corner, there was the head usher, the person who was in charge of all the greeters. He had come down the hallway and stepped over to Linda and I to greet us that weekend. And the very first words out of his mouth was, "Welcome, ladies."
Wow.
And it was the first time that I had been validated as my true self in a church by someone who never had met me before. Welcome, ladies. Thank you for coming to church today. So we've been a member of that church ever since that day. And, you know, that church has since adopted a policy where they are accepting of transgender persons. They welcome them with open arms, as well as LGBTers. So
is it already written on their website?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
It is. It's a public statement that they had written, and it's posted on their webpage. Out in the front of the church, there's a rainbow banner that says "Everybody is welcome in our church."
Oh, that's nice of them.
Yeah, so it's, you know, I was the only transgender person in the church at that time. So for that congregation to go out of its way to make a public statement to say we support you and we welcome you here, it was just a phenomenal experience. Through that church, you know, we started working with support groups in the county. Linda and I wanted to work with youth because as a youth I was always being bullied. You know, I couldn't get close to the boys because I was the feminine boy and they didn't like, you know, boys who were feminine. And I couldn't get close to the girls because I was that boy. So I had no friends when I was a child. I was just constantly bullied. So it was something close to my heart that I didn't want that for other kids. So I said to Linda, I want to work in the schools. Let's help other kids know that someday they can get beyond that hate and that bullying and become another person like me. So we, you know, through that church, we created a support group here in the county, and people were coming in to visit, and Linda and I were running it. And we had a visitor from another county that had come. And, you know, after our meeting was over, you know, she came up and said, I'd like you to come to our school and meet some of our students. She was head of a support group there. Linda and I agreed we'd go and you know, talk to a few students who were there. So we went. It was like 2 or 3 weeks later we went to the school meeting. Well, we walked in and we saw, you know, Angela. It was a friend of ours, and you know, she says, "Hey, thanks for coming. We really appreciate you being here. The meeting should start in a few minutes." So we sat down and we were waiting for the rest of the students. It was about 20 or 30 students had come in and said, you know, welcome, and we were welcome, and everybody was happy to see us there. Angela, you know, started her meeting and introduced us and said, "This is Linda and Karen, and I'm going to hand the meeting over to them." We had no idea that we were going to run this meeting. We just thought we were being invited to meet the students. So we had basically started to tell our story to the students there, and they just immediately came, you know, close to Linda and I. They appreciated our being honest with them with our story and how it had worked out for us. And, you know, we went from there. They invited us to come back, and they actually told their whole college campus and had a campus meeting and said, you know, we want to tell more people about this story. We need more people. So they talked to other classroom professors and said, this family is here. We'd like to, you know, have them come in. So we ended up speaking at that college every other year for several years. And it's not just one campus. They have 5 campuses now, and we always go to every campus all the time. And every campus, it's standing room only. Every seat is full. The back walls have people standing on it to come in to hear our story. It was just an incredible feeling to be able to tell our story and have people say, yes, we appreciate that. And then have the persons come up afterwards and say, well, I'm a transgender person. Thank you. I'm glad that I can have a future. Or a parent comes up and says, thank you. I didn't understand my granddaughter or my grandson. And now I understand what they're going through. Because of our story, we're able to help those people. So it became something that Linda and I wanted to do. We, you know, become speakers and tell our story and to take it nationwide. Not to become famous or, you know, superheroes or anything like that, but to help other people. You know? So that's our goal and it's our ambition. But
well, Karen's got a background in IT, so she works with computers, and she worked with the blood center. She was getting a new position, and she wanted to go as her true self. So she went to their Pride network and told them via email, and they got back that it's not an issue. 2 days later, her boss called and said, "Bring all your equipment," and they fired her. And 2011. And Florida is called a right-to-work state, so they can fire you for whatever reason, or no reason. But sadly what was happening was Karen was in the position of changing her name legally. So Karen Schrader has no work history. So who's going to hire her?
That's true.
And if you have a social security number, and that's what tells you that you can work. So you take that number and it traces back to the old gender, and the old name.
Everybody knows.
So, yeah. So even if she was a final candidate for a position, who was going to hire her? Because there's a conflict in who she's saying she is to who she really legally on paper is. So her name is legally changed. All that has changed now. But at that point we decided, why work for somebody else? Let's go tell our story. Let's do what we need to do and not be tied to a 9-to-5 job. So all of our kids were on board. One by one we told our kids, and they all felt that, you know, this is your life. You've got to be who you want to be. And, you know, so they're all on board. Our daughter, the youngest, when she told her husband said, look, my dad's never been in my life. You have both of your parents in your life. You know, like, why would this be an issue? Which is nice, you know, when our kids are supported by their partners. You know, so now we've got the kids and our grandkids, and they know Karen is grandmom, and there's never been a question.
Yeah, that was one of our biggest fears, because of our son who lived in Pennsylvania. We had 2 grandchildren who were away that we didn't see very often. And we were afraid that, you know, when we told him that I was going to be Karen from now going forward, that we would lose contact with not only our son, but now our grandchildren. Would we lose all of our grandchildren through this? So it was a huge fear for us. So they had come down for a Christmas vacation in 2010, a year after I started my transition, and we had agreed to go on a cruise. We were going to tell Jason and his family on the cruise on the last day of the cruise. Figured, well, we'd enjoy the cruise, get to see our, you know, family. We hadn't seen them in a while, you know, and I don't want to ruin the cruise, so we'll wait until the last day and we'll tell them. So I had taken off the wig because, again, it was still early in my transition. I didn't have long hair. It was down to here, but it wasn't something, because he didn't see me very often. He didn't put 2 and 2 together. I had dressed in, again, androgynous clothes. It could be taken either way. And on a cruise ship, usually in a pair of shorts or a bathing suit anyway, most of the time. So there was no idea that I was actually Karen and anything was going to happen. So the cruise was fun. We had taken the grandchildren so they could go out and have fun. And we said, you know, you go have your time. We'll watch the grandkids. We'll go, you know, to the pool, whatever, and we'll get together another night. On the last night, you know, we were supposed to go to dinner, and the grandchildren were going to go to the cruise play area, and, you know, they had someone who would watch the children. So it was just going to be us and our son and his wife. But on the last night of the cruise, he called and said, was Holly sick or he was sick? Somebody was sick. They were tired. So they never made the dinner that night. So I never got to tell him that, you know, I'm transitioning and, you know, I'm going forward, I'm going to be Karen. So we got back to port in Tampa, and our other children were there waiting for us because they knew we were going to tell him. Did you tell him? How did he take it? You know, we didn't get to tell him. Oh, jeez. So they decided on their own that, okay, we're going to take this in our own hands. They put Holly in one car, Jason in another car, and they kept them separated, and we had the grandkids in our car. So they told Jason on the ride to our home from the port. We talked to Jason later that night. He said, "It's okay. You know, it doesn't bother me. I'm fine with that." He says, "You know, well, it's not an issue." Linda has had a thing that we don't like to hand somebody a burden like that and say, "You know, this is for you to go share with your family." Now we're not. You know, we told you. Now you go tell everybody else. We're not like that. So Linda said, "Whenever you're ready to tell your wife, let us know. And then we'll make a trip to your home in Pennsylvania, or if you come down next Christmas, we'll tell her when you're ready." So we didn't think anything more of it that evening. I was in the room working on something. My computer was in there at the time, and everybody else was out here. And because I was early in transition, I had a lot of wigs. I had 4 or 5 wigs on head.
All different colors, all different sizes,
all different lengths and colors, because I didn't know what color hair I wanted. I didn't know how long I wanted it, so I had all these wigs. And they were in the room on top of the shelves. I know they were just in there, and they knew Linda didn't wear wigs. So I'm in there working, and all of a sudden, Holly comes towards the door, and Linda was in a panic. I didn't realize she was coming into the room because I had my back to her working on the computer. So Linda said, "Holly's going into the room, and there's wigs everywhere in there, and Karen's in there." She was terrified, and I was scared when I saw her come. Oh no, he told her, "You know, this is it. She's going to tell me when I'm done." You know, But it was completely opposite of that. You know, she had said, I can't believe that you wouldn't want to tell me this, and that you hid this from me for all these years. You know, I can't believe you hurt that long. You know, so I told her I didn't want to lose the grandkids. She says, that would never happen. You are you, and you know, we're not that way. So she had complete acceptance, you know, of me, you know, being Karen. We had never talked to her about who was, you know, how were the grandchildren going to address me going forward, because they knew me as the other person, but they were very young. So we didn't say anything. It wasn't discussed. The next day, Linda was out here talking with the children. It was church, you know, Sunday for church, and you know, Linda said, Karen's going to come out. We're going to go to church if you want to take the kids and, you know, put them in the back so they don't see her. And they said, no, don't worry about it. It's fine. You know, just come on out. So I came out, you know, dressed as Karen for the very first time in front of my grandchildren. And the oldest grandchild, our granddaughter, Shelby, said, you know, who are you? My name is Shelby. Nice to meet you. She had no idea who I was, but she wanted to know who I was. You know, who are you? My name is Shelby. And I didn't know how to respond, because we hadn't discussed that. Well, you know, her mother from the kitchen says, oh, that's your grandmom Karen. Oh, hi, grandmom Karen. I'm glad to meet you. And it's been that way ever since.
They never questioned it.
None of the grandchildren have. You know, so we've got the full support of, you know, our children, our grandchildren, you know, my church, our church, you know, many people in the community. You know, we have a lot of support. You know, sadly, not many transgender people do have that kind of support, and that's why we lose so many, you know, taking their own lives. They don't have friendships and supports, you know, when they decide to go ahead and transition. So that's part of the things we like to tell in our story. You know, even if you don't understand them, at least try to respect them, so that they don't feel that, you know, you feel they're worthless. You know, we lose way too many people. You know.
So if I understand well, you were hiding it until 2009?
Off and
87.
on.
In 87, when Tiffany was born, is when she first told me. And then after then, she would wake up really early and ride her bike, and she would wear women's clothes at 4 in the morning to ride her bike, because then nobody would see her. She didn't have to explain. She didn't have to talk to anybody. She would be home before she had to go to work, shower, put on her men's clothes, and leave. But we always knew when it was happening, because all of a sudden she'd be wearing socks. So the kids and I had this little, we knew, but it was one of those quiet things you never talked about. Because there was no way of knowing anything about this. We had gone through counseling, and they were really no help. But again, it was before there was a lot of information on what it means to be transgender, and is this something that is part of who you are, or something that happened while you were growing up that caused this. They didn't know. So, I don't know, we were in Scouts and baseball and in so many things that you sort of think, do I want the kids to feel that? Do I want them to be made fun of or comments made? Because it's not an environment where there's discussion about it.
In the 1980s, it was not good to be a transgender person, or even be a gay person in the 1980s. It was not good back then.
It was just strange.
Yeah. Well, your parent did something wrong. Your father didn't make you manly enough, or your mom babied you. There was something that caused you to be that way, but it actually, something caused it during the birthing, during the making, while you're still in the uterus. Before you even come out, this happens.
And they've actually found a biological connection, finally. So we've got scientific data to back up.
Yeah, I read about that.
I am who I say I am. I truly am. You know, I'm not trying to pretend to be somebody else. This is me. You know, something in the process of my mother, you know, creating me, you know, something went wrong. And I didn't get the signal that, you know, my brain is supposed to be male to match my outer body. Yeah. There's so many people out there who think that we're making a choice to do this. No. We're not. You know, I mean, yes, I am making a choice to be my true self. I'm not making a choice to say, you know, I want to be this person today, and tomorrow I'm going to change my name again, and I'm going to go back to being male. That's not going to happen. You know, I've been me now since 2009. It's been the best thing that's happened to my life and to our relationship, because, you know, I think I started to tell you that a little earlier, as a transgender person, because we don't, you know, so many people misunderstood us. We didn't have a lot of friends, so we had very little support. So you tend to get to be a very bitter person, and you know, so my thought process in 2009 when I decided to transition was, rather than have Linda say to me again, "You need to leave," I would just push her away by being the most miserable, nasty person that I could be to her and to the children. And I was, very disrespectful, very rude, and I made life miserable for them, hoping that they would leave me and I wouldn't have to leave them. So it kind of backfired. It didn't work out as I had planned. It turned out that they fully support me, which is incredible. So many transgender people don't have that, and I want other families who may be going through something similar to realize, don't live up to what society says you have to be. If you are in a relationship where both people love each other, regardless of the outside parts, that relationship can stay together and still be a happy relationship. There's no reason to have to get a divorce or to separate. But if one of the two parties says, well, I didn't really want to be with another woman, or I didn't want to be with another man, well, it's okay. You can still be friends and still have a social relationship. You don't have to lose contact with your children or grandchildren and so forth. You can still maintain friendships if that relationship is not going to continue on. At least do it on a friendly basis. That can happen. So that's why we tell our story. That yes, you can stay together, or you can at least stay friends. It doesn't have to destroy everything.
But also, from a family point of view, we have that support group at the local high school. And there's a young lady there that keeps getting in trouble, disciplinary problems. And what they found out was she is in a male foster home, and she has to change clothes on the way to school or at school. And the clothes she's wearing are not appropriate. It's showing too much body. It's not appropriate for school. So she kept getting in trouble. Karen went in, talked to the teachers. They got her clothes that were appropriate, and she's been a great student.
She's actually going on to college now.
Yeah, she's
when
doing really good.
She was facing being expelled from school because of a disciplinary problem that they had every day, but they didn't understand why was she acting this way, or why was she constantly. We keep telling her, "You're not allowed to wear these clothes," but every day she wears these clothes. Why is she doing that? So I had to go in. I talked to the young lady, and then I talked to the counselors. I said, "Look, she's in the foster care system. She's already being rejected by her family. The foster care system put her in with boys. She's not a boy. She's a young lady. So because she's in that environment, she has very little access to clothing. The only place she can change her clothes is in her vehicle on the way to school, or in the school locker room when she gets here. So she doesn't have a lot of clothes. Let's do something about that." So, I said, our support group at, locally, I'll talk to our families and say, "Look, we need some clothes. Can you help?" Our support group itself would pay for clothes if she needed it. And one of the teachers says, "I think I have something that might fit her." She brought her own clothing in from home. And one of the teachers gave her a bunch of clothes that she no longer wore. And, she carried herself very well. She had a smile on her face. I mean, it just like a light bulb had clicked off in her head. I am me, finally. People respect me for being me, and I'm happy. And her grades improved. And like I said, she's going to college now.
All from a troubled youth.
Yeah.
Because not being understood.
And not having the resources to tell somebody what was the matter, why she had to act that way. And she really wasn't acting anyway other than the way she knew how. I only have 4 sets of clothes. I have to wear these clothes because this is who I am. If you don't like it, lump it. It was her attitude. She was really a nasty student, as I was to Linda and the family. It's the way transgender people go through this process. If you reject us, we're going to be nasty to you. So, and that's what the young lady was doing. She was just being nasty. These are the clothes I have. You don't like it? Yeah. So after I had to get a chance to speak to her and to the teacher, we kind of resolved it right there in the school. It was just incredible, the transformation, in her. So it's why we like to do what we do. We tell our story to have people. Yes, you can stay together, and for people who don't understand what it is to be transgender and are experiencing things like this young lady with her school, to educate the people in the school to say, well, this is what's happening, this is why, and be able to give them a solution how to fix it and have it turn out as well as it did for this young lady. It's very fulfilling for us to be able to do that.
But what a lot of people don't think of, if you're lesbian and gay, there's not much that changes except for who you love. Your name stays the same. You might put a same-sex partner on your desk, but other than that, everything stays the same. When you're trans, your little girl now becomes a little boy, and you have to tell people. So those are the kind of things that we try and help them explain. Once you transition, how do you tell other people? And there's so many different ways. I mean, we've seen people that have a coming out party. You know, this is now my daughter, you know, so that everybody gets to know you. Karen and I run the local crime watch. Are you familiar with a crime watch? So the first time Karen was her true self, the kids were so worried. Everybody's coming to the house. We're going to have 30 people here. How are you going to do this? And I said, I'm going to say, Karen's going to join us. Let's get the party started. And they were like, you can't do that. I said, this isn't Karen and Linda's life. This is Crime Watch. Karen's going to join us. Let's get the meeting started. But when we went to a block party, which was a big picnic and lots of games and fun stuff for everybody to do, people would walk up to Karen and say, are you new in the neighborhood? And she'd say, no.
We've lived here for so many years, and they have people we've had sitting in our living room not know who I am.
Yeah.
It's just incredible. It was kind of validating to me. Yes, I'm me, finally. They don't know who I am.
You're different friends now.
Yes, and you know, one woman who we've known for a very long time, she said, you know, are you new in the neighborhood? I said, well, no, I live with Linda. And then you seen her go like this, and she made a face, oh. She put two and two together. So it was fun, you know. But even here in the neighborhood, you know, everyone accepts me for who I am. You know, I think it's because we're just very active in our community.
But I also think it's confidence in sharing something so personal like this. And I don't think that every parent or sibling or loved one is able to do that. And my goal is to share our story to give them that strength. You know, like, what do you do with family pictures? Once you start taking hormones, if you were born male-bodied and you start taking female hormones, you go through the change as if you were a teenager again. If you were a girl transitioning to male and you start hormones, your voice lowers, facial hair comes, the muscle mass changes, and you almost go through that testosterone rage that puberty would put onto a male. So Karen was 48 and she started hormones. So
I basically became 12 years old again.
Yes. Yes.
Anything that Linda would say to me, I'd be crying, why would you say that? I'd be in tears all the time. My emotions were just crazy.
But it's something that I think it's important for people to understand if you're going to relate to this person. To be able to understand what they're experiencing so that you can have less friction, so that you can make the home life a little bit more comfortable. You know, but I mean, there's so many aspects when the breast fairy comes. When we do our talk, it's about an hour and a half. But we talk about telling the kids. We go into more detail about the breast fairy. And when Karen actually started maturing and her breast, and the time we went to her first prom where she picked out her first gown, and trying on makeup. If you ever looked at a Cosmopolitan magazine, did you ever look at a magazine where the women have like all this glitter and color and bright lips? And if you ever would walk in and see somebody trying to do that never put makeup on a day in their life. So these are the experiences that someone who's trans misses out on, because her mom never said, you're not going out of the house in that outfit, young lady. How many times have we showed too much and it was our parents who said, She never experienced that. So she looked at Fredericks to Hollywood and said, oh, I like that. And I'd say, does those boobies come with that outfit? And to her, it was a beautiful outfit. And it would look fine on her no matter what her size. And I thought, So
it's a learning experience, yeah. Being 48 years old and transitioning to becoming my true self, I did not have all the experiences.
So it was you acting as the parent? Well, and telling, no, this is not a good idea to work.
That's one thing that I refuse to do, and a lot of trans couples do it. If you see a trans couple, they both dress identical. The same long skirt, the same hairstyle, everything looks identical. Because that's how that person learned
from the other person.
From their spouse.
Right. So I would tell Karen, if you like that dress, if you can walk with your head held high and not always pulling it down, then I think you should wear it. But if you feel that when we go out you won't be able to sit without showing something, then maybe it's a little too tight. But I always let her decide, because I never wanted to take that from her. I wanted her to experience. If she's going to wear it, she's got to spend the night going like this all night, you know, because things aren't comfortable where they're laying. Do you know what I mean? I just felt it was important for her to do that. So
needless to say, Linda does not wear makeup, so
not
she wouldn't teach me anything about makeup.
Not at all.
So I ended up, I wasn't allowed to use the Cosmopolitan magazine, so we went.
She did once. It was horrible. It was horrible.
So we found a beauty shop, you know, locally who taught me how to apply makeup properly. You know, and I agreed to have my hair done too. We've known, you know, the hairstylist there for very many years. So, you know, she's a wonderful person. But you know, she taught me how to put my makeup on.
But I'm a big believer that if you don't know, let's find somebody who can help you. Because how else do you learn if nobody teaches you?
That's true.
You know? So it's been a fun journey. It's been scary. You know, we were together for almost 30 years, 27 years, and I used a male pronoun for all that time. So all of a sudden when I thought back of things that we had done prior to Karen's transition, I would use the wrong pronoun because that's the person who I did it with. So it's taken us a lot, and there's still occasionally oddball things that happen that sometimes I have to think before I say that the pronoun. And I'm not doing it to be mean, I'm just doing it because that's the memory associated with that pronoun. So this isn't an easy journey, and it's a transition for everybody. You know, not only for Karen, or for me, or for our 4 children and their spouses, or for our siblings, or for our friends. You know, so it becomes a big group that has to transition for this change.
So your kids all the time knew that you are somehow different, and the only thing that you wanted to tell them was that you are going to transition to female. So
when everybody was older, yes. You know, as young children, I tried not to let them see me. You know, they knew when I was dressing because of the socks and things like that.
And did they knew that you feel like female?
Yeah.
I don't think they knew until Karen actually transitioned. And she waited until our daughter, our youngest, was 21. When Tiffany turned 21, then she said, okay, our kids are grown, they all have good jobs, they all have an education, now it's her time.
That's why 2009, you know, all the children now, they were 21, they're very self-sufficient, you know. I no longer had the responsibility to raise the children. So
this is amazing. One question came to my mind just right now. Do you do this as full-time, the speaking thing and so on?
We would love to do it more often. We do it wherever people need. We've done a lot for free. But really we need to start getting paid more to do it, because there's an education that needs to be shared. But I think if organizations or companies or groups need this information and they want it, then they sure need to commit something to it. And I think sometimes when you put money behind it, it gives it more power.
Yeah, we've gone through, you know, the process of becoming professionally recognized. I mean, we've spoken with the FBI here in our local town. We are vetted with the United States Department of Justice to train law enforcement officers working with transgender people. I mean, so we have a lot of credentials behind us now that we didn't have before.
How hard is it to get vetted by the department?
It's really hard.
Yeah.
How many people are like this in the country?
Transgender?
I mean, no, vetted by the law to train the law enforcement.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the vetting process.
Is it like hundreds or thousands? Or
no, I don't think it's that many, because this process, you know, the reason why we were vetted was the Department of Justice, prior to the current administration, you know, decided that, you know, transgender people are being victimized. You know, there 20 to 30 are being murdered every year in this country. We've had 4 here in Florida in the last 6 months that were murdered. So the Department of Justice said, this is an area we need to work on, have our law enforcement trained to understand, you know, if a transgender person has been victimized and the officer comes up and addresses them as the name that's on their driver's license, and it's a previous name or a previous pronoun, then that person is not going to respond to the officer. They're not going to give answers. If the person is a witness to a crime as a transgender person, and a law enforcement officer comes up and says, you know, can I see your ID? And again, the ID doesn't match the persona, and they use the name or the pronoun incorrectly, that person will not give an officer information to help find, you know, the person who's the criminal. So our training is to help them understand, you know, how they need to respect who we say we are, even if the documentation doesn't. And the reason why the documentation does not match who we are,
it's just because of the system.
Well, not the system.
Expensive.
It's very expensive to change your name legally in this country. It was $350 for me, and I was fired in 2011 from my job.
Just because of it.
Because of who I was.
Well, you know, and being validated. Who you are is such a basic thing in life, to be validated.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You know, and that's the hard part. But there was a time when none of the information was available, and now it is. You know, and so many people have never met a trans person, but I think it's important. There's what they call the T umbrella, the LGBT, and if you're L, we know it's lesbian, and if you're G, gay. I mean, so it's pretty basic, but when you get to T, that T stands for more than just transgender. It also stands for the female and male impersonators, the drag queens. They consider part of the T umbrella. And then there's also this new gender binary, gender fluid, where, I don't know, I relate back to when I was a kid. I didn't wear dresses all the time, and I was a girl. I liked wearing pants some days. I liked wearing big bulky pants some days. To me, that's what the kids now call gender fluid. They're more feminine today, but more masculine tomorrow. But it doesn't mean they want to be a man or a guy. It just means they're more fluid in where they're...
what their presentation or their self-identity is.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we've met students, you know, to us this is a very strange thing because it isn't part of our experience, but to these students they say, I am neither male or female, I'm in the middle. Or I do not identify as neither male or female. I'm gender neutral. You know, many students we've talked to in the college identify as gender neutral. They do not identify as male or female. That's what's coming up behind us as trans people. You know, so not just America, but the world has got a whole new thing they've got to learn in just a little while.
So this T umbrella
It
is
covers
something,
a lot of people.
And I don't think people understand that. You know, so I think we try not to talk a lot about the LGBT because that's pretty common. Most people have somebody in their family who fits the LGBT curve.
Yeah. It doesn't mean that they don't still have struggles. They do. But nothing like a transgender person is going through. I mean,
there are so many resources, you know, on this today, but not the transgender thing.
Right, right.
You know, a gay person or a lesbian person are not being murdered, you know, 30 people a year, you know, because of who they look like, you know, or what they are. So yes, they do have struggles. People, you know, still don't appreciate who they are, but they tolerate them. We've not gotten the tolerance yet, and we've still got a lot of hate for transgender people.
Can I have one like intimate question? So you feel like a female? What is your sexual preference? Is
female?
It attracts? Yeah. Okay.
So I would be a lesbian.
Yes. Yes. Okay. I understand.
So it's interesting. Karen's oldest brother was her biggest bully growing up. There was a big age difference, but Karen was a sissy to him. So he just didn't understand why she didn't just man up. So when she came out, told everybody who she was, he apologized. He really felt bad. He had no idea that he was her biggest bully. And she had documented this. It was out there. Everybody knew.
In the early part of my churches, I was writing a blog and posting it to Facebook, you know, what my journey was. And my brother's daughter saw the post and said, Dad, did you know this? And showed it to him. And he had read it on the 1st of April, which is April Fool's Day here. So he thought, well, it's got to be a joke. You know, it's April Fool's. This is a joke. So Linda and I went up to visit our son in Pennsylvania, and he was living there. And her cell phone rang, and it was my brother Frank. And she was in the shower. I'm looking at the phone. Do I answer this phone? I mean, I hadn't talked to my brother in probably 20 years. You know, we were that estranged because, you know, I couldn't be close to him because he bullied me, you know, most of my life. So I was, do I answer this call, or, you know, or wait for Linda to get out of the shower? I answered that, and I used, you know, my female voice. Said, "Hello, who is this?" I said, "It's your sister." I do have a sister. So I don't think he put two and two together to realize that I was, you know, actually his other sister. Yeah. He thought it was the older sister. He said, "Well, tell Linda I need to talk to her. Where is she at?" Well, she's in the shower. Okay, well, tell her to call me when she gets out of the shower. Okay, I'll talk to you later. And he didn't know who he was talking to. Yeah. So when Linda got out of the shower, I told her, you know, Frank just called and he wants you to call him back. I don't know what he wants. So she had called my brother, and he said, "I read the blog. I mean, is that really true?" And she said, "Well, yeah, it's, you know, it's from her heart. This is, you know, this was her experience." He says, "I had no idea, but it explains many things as why she acted so feminine when she was young." Yeah. So he finally began to realize why I acted the way I did when I was younger, you know.
And did he use the she?
Yes.
Wow.
And he said to Linda, "We need to get together. I want to meet my sister." You know, it wasn't, "I want to meet my brother. I want to meet my sister." So we got together at an Olive Garden restaurant in town there the next night or the night after.
And every time we go up, we spend time with him. Yeah. Every time. But the interesting thing was, when we first met him after all this, he said to Karen, "Okay, being trans is one thing. I'm just glad you're not a lesbian." And I said, "We'll tell him that one another time. We won't go into this one." But
he doesn't understand either concept, so we're good.
And that's one of the things we do talk about, because who you are isn't who you're attracted to. They're two different things, and people don't understand that.
That's the reason why I asked.
Yeah.
Because that was the first thing that came to my mind. Okay, she's with Linda. Okay, yeah. She just felt like her, but...
And she's always been attracted to women. So it worked out well. Yeah.
So yes, I'm a lesbian, and I'm transgender, so I got a double-edged sword.
But the good thing about it is that you have your own children, you know?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. What's happening now is, you know, many transgender people who are young, you know, their doctors are telling them, if you want to have children, you need to save your eggs or save your sperm. You know? So later you can have children. So that's occurring.
What do you think of like the those people that are really crazy about LGBT, and they just like fanatics, and instead of helping this community, I think they more than help, they harm the community. Yes. What do you think of these people?
Almost like Caitlyn Jenner. Do you know Caitlyn Jenner?
Never heard the name.
Okay. Caitlyn Jenner was part of the Olympics and was a runner.
A decathlete.
Okay.
Decathlon.
Okay. As a male. She's part of a very rich family, with lots of money, and she transitioned. She's now Caitlyn from her male name. But because of her money, she's been able to do things that everybody else would struggle to do. And she had people calling us saying, "So what did you have to do to change your birth certificate? So what did you have to do to get your driver's license? Can anybody change their driver's license?"
Because they say they are this person? You know, can they just say, today I'm going to be a boy, or tomorrow I'm going to be a girl? No, it doesn't work that way. Not for the transgender persons. Yeah.
But Caitlyn made it look like
it was very easy to do.
Loony person can do this. And there's no rules to do it. But because she had money, she was able to get things faster. Or she just never said. In order for you to get a letter from your therapist, and it's got to be a gender therapist, to get your bottom surgery, you have to see them for 2 years. You have to live as that person for 2 years. You have to pump gas, you have to food shop, you have to work, you have to live. Not just live in a house that everybody brings to you and you're isolated. So before Caitlyn could get that letter, she either had to pay somebody off, or She quietly behind the scenes had to live it and then just come out when she was ready. Do you see what I'm saying? So she made it.
She didn't show the background. She didn't show what is.
Nope.
No, it made it look really easy that anybody could do it, and it's not the case because the majority of transgender people don't have money like she has. And not that I begrudge that the person has wealth. Good for them, they have wealth. I don't have it, but don't make it look like I can do that tomorrow because I can't and I couldn't.
And then all of our friends are calling saying, "Wait a second, how did this happen? I mean, isn't there any kind of training? Isn't there any kind of doctor you need to see? You can just walk in and say to the driver's license place,
I will
yeah, fix my driver's license, I don't like it today." No, you can't do that. You have to have a letter. You've got to see a psychiatrist for 2 years. You know, and you actually see 2 psychiatrists. After you see the one for the 2 years, they give you an initial letter saying, yes, I find this person meets the criteria and should transition to their preferred gender. And then a second psychiatrist evaluates what the first one did and either concurs or denies. So if the second one says, no, I don't think so, you don't get that second letter, you can't have any surgeries done. So 2 people have to say, yes, this person meets the criteria, and I think they are a stable enough person. They have support network built in, which I had to show that, yes, my family supported me, my church supported me, but many transgender people don't have the support, and that's the biggest obstacle to many transgender persons. To get a letter, they've got to have a support network, and because they can't make friends, because people don't understand them or they hate them, as the group of people you talked about earlier, they can't get these things accomplished.
That's pretty frustrating, proving people who you are. That's crazy.
And the later in life you do this because you haven't been raised wearing the appropriate clothes or dressing or mannerisms or putting on the makeup. There's so many things that as you get older, you're farther from that time frame, so it makes it even harder to pass, to fit into society, for people not to look at you twice.
Have you ever encountered some kind of like physical violence just because you are who you are? Or?
I haven't, no. But
we have some fun stories though.
Tell them.
So, the cable, the company that does the cable, was in Karen's old name. So we needed to go change it. So we walked up, we were in the car, and she was very upset because she didn't want confrontation. We got this. So we walked in, young lady behind the desk, and I put the bill. I said, we'll need to change it from that name into my name. And she said, is this person here? And she was young, and you knew she knew. And Karen said, well, that used to be me, but that's not my name anymore. She said, oh, I got this. So she changed the bill into my name. We get back to the car. I said, see, look, you were so worried, and nothing happened. So then we went to the bank to change our mortgage. We had our own business. We had our savings. We had our checking. All of our accounts were with this one bank. And the mortgage, we had been with them for I don't know how many years. So I went in. You have to sign your name on the sheet if you want to talk to one of the banker people. A young man came up, and we've had Derek before, and he said, we said, we need to change Karen's name. And he said, I can't help you with that. I can't help you with that.
He was terrified.
Yeah. And I said, okay, Sean will help you with that, but I can't help you with that. So, and we knew Sean, so we went over to Sean. She took care of us. And while we're sitting there, it was Sean, Karen, and me. But behind them was this gentleman, Derek, going to each of the tellers.
No way.
Ooh, the hair on the back of my neck stood up. And I said to Karen and Sean, I'll be right back, I'll only be a minute. I went up to Derek and I said, Derek, do we have an issue? No, we don't have an issue. I couldn't do it. I couldn't change it. And I said, Derek, do we have an issue? And he said, no. I said, well, then I need to talk to your manager. And the manager came out, and I said, we have been part of this bank family for many years. You have a diverse employee base. We've been very happy here. But I think Derek needs a little bit of education. My wife and I are here to make a change to one of our accounts. He said he couldn't help. We were totally fine with that. I said, but then when he went over to the tellers and was pointing to my wife that doesn't sit well with me. And I know, based on how you run this business, it doesn't sit well with you either. So I know you will handle it. If, moving forward, Derek needs a little bit more help, I'll ask for him personally every time I come. She looked at me, and she knew I wasn't playing. But I didn't yell. I didn't raise my voice. I wasn't mean. I just wanted her to know if he needs more help. I will be sure to be his personal assistant every time I come. Came back, sat back down to Karen. We finished the conversation and it was done. Because I thought, if she didn't know what was happening, and he didn't learn how to work in customer service, then there was an issue.
That bank is known for being accepting of the transgender community, you know, nationally. But this local branch, that person had a problem. You know, you have to agree to the policy that the company who's hiring you, they said we support these people, then you support these people. If you don't, then you don't work at that bank.
Yes.
The next time he went to the bank, he wasn't working at that bank anymore.
You told him a lesson.
So to me, I use humor, and I also keep my calm and cool to help other people learn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's an amount that you tell people based on what the issue is. You don't have to go into too much detail if it doesn't warrant, but you do have to at least let people know that you're not going to take. You know, we went out to dinner one night, and a guy came up to our table. So which one of you are on top?
No way.
And I said,
at our dinner table, which one of you is the man?
Yeah.
Neither one of us is the man. Don't you understand it? Well, who's on top?
And I said, we take turns. And then our waiter came over and said, was he being mean to you? Nope, we took care of him, but if he comes back, he may need to be escorted out.
He was just very heavily drunk. You know. This was in a bar that's known for having gay persons there. The entertainment were drag queens, so you know, it was an environment where we should have been safe. And he was there to have fun. He got too many drinks, and you know, whether it was a legitimate question that he really needed to know, I don't know. I don't really care. It's not an appropriate question.
Maybe he just needed more time to realize who he was.
Yeah,
you know.
Have you ever eaten at a hamburger Mary's?
No.
If you see one, please do yourself a favor and stop. Very good food, but they have a drag show. And all of the waiters and waitresses are lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender. So it's a fun family atmosphere. It's called Hamburger Mary's.
Is it like chain or
It's a
around
chain.
the States? Wow.
Yep.
We will do that.
There's one in Tampa, there's one in Orlando, they're all over. There's one in Palm Harbor, depending on which way you're going south. But it is a nice place to eat.
We will go there.
Yeah.
What do you think was your biggest achievement in your I don't know, speaking profession?
Seeing, for me...
I know it's very hard to say, because for you, even, you know, helping one person to realize who he is or not is the biggest achievement.
Come here.
It is for me. I can't speak for Linda, but for me, when a parent comes up to me and says, you know, I understand my child now, or my grandchild now.
And that's happened multiple times.
Many times. Yeah, many times.
To me, the last time we spoke at the college, probably 2 years ago, like Karen said, usually it's standing room only. We went to this new campus. It was a smaller campus. Nobody came but one person. And I thought that was really weird. But that one person, their sister was transitioning. She doesn't live close by. And I think she was having a nervous breakdown because of this. It was her twin sister or something. There was a real close bond. And she felt like it wasn't right. She didn't know what to do. She felt left out. Why didn't she know this? She was beating herself up. And because we didn't have a whole class, we were able to sit at a table instead of standing in front of everybody and not making it personalized, but we were able to work with her. So that really felt good.
Yeah, I read about that.
Yeah, that was
so
really
even though it was only one person,
there was a reason.
They were there, and she was the only person for a reason. Had there been a room full of people, she may not have asked that question or asked for help. And she may not be with her sister right now. So, yeah, it's always helping people one way or the other for us. You know, to get people to understand. You know, we're not trying to alienate other persons. We just want you to understand we're human beings too. You know, whether we look different than you or not, or we're a different color than you are, we're still human beings. You know?
And she's got boobs. She does. She does.
I saw them.
See? Nice. It seems when we're talking and things get really quiet, if you point that out, all of a sudden the energy comes back. When we speak, we have all these little things that I talk, and I'm an upbeat person. Karen talks, and it can be heavy about the suicide or childhood. You know, but then I jump back in and I have some kind of a joke. And
this is a good one.
It is.
What is the best about your job, and what is the worst?
Right now, we really, really want doors to open to be able to talk. We really do. I did a bunch of cold calls to colleges, universities who have law enforcement, who have nursing, who have human sexualities of the groups that should hear our talk, but they don't know me. So they don't. I'm just another person. We don't want any more suicides. The suicide rate for trans youth, the attempted suicide rate for trans youth is 50% up to the age of 21. So 50% of our trans youth have attempted suicide. Karen, you tried 3 or 4 times when you were young. That's horrible. That is just horrible. And I'm okay that parents don't understand. But I would really like for them to at least ask some questions. You know, and try. Yeah. And my biggest reason why it's not fair to the children, but if that child does succeed and takes their life, and when society starts understanding this isn't a choice, that guilt that parent is going to have cannot be solved. They can never go back and get that child back because of their lack of love, of support.
And the education they need to offer that.
Right. Well, we're all human. We're all different, but we're all human. So it shouldn't matter your skin color, your nationality, your race. These things shouldn't matter. All that should matter is we're human.
Are you a good person or are you a bad person?
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know, whether you're male or female, or you used to be male or female, it shouldn't play into it. Whether you like boys and you're a boy, it should not matter.
That's true.
You know, if it's not for you, that's fine. Don't do it. But this is who we are, and these are people we love. You know, we have to respect your relationships and who you are. We're asking for the same. It's not special treatment. It's the same treatment, equal treatment. See, today, you know, the youth of today. When I was young, I was being bullied at school. When I went home, as long as my father wasn't there, I was okay. You know, my father was, you know, very abusive. He knew who I was, and he didn't like it. You know, he did not want another daughter, so I didn't get treated well. But the bullying stopped for me when I went home. As long as I was in my room alone, or my father wasn't there, I was okay. I was safe. The kids today, they don't have that. They have a phone. They have a computer. They're online all the time. So the bullying does not stop.
24/7 all the time.
Social media is mean.
And it isn't just 2 or 3 people because it's social media. Hundreds of thousands of people know your secret or what someone says about you.
Once it's online,
you can't take it back. So today the youth have it really, really hard, and that's kind of another reason why I like to talk in the schools and the colleges, you know, to help the child who's struggling with that, you know, that hatred, to understand, you know, and to realize that once you get beyond this, you can get beyond this, but you need to associate with people who understand and will accept you and support you, you know, for who you are. And if you're not that person, but you are somebody who could support, then that's your responsibility to support someone who says, I need your help. Whether the person's lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, black, white, whatever nationality, it doesn't matter. It's a human being coming to another human being and says, I need help. Be there for that person. You know, be willing to help anybody.
Yes. There is a question, I don't know where it is, but there was. Is there a difference in the LGBT toleration in the country? I mean, I guess it's much worse in rural areas, and it's better in the cities. But if you compare, for example, north, south, west, east,
I think it's more city-based. The northeast tends to be larger pockets where it's
it's more support in the Northeast.
Come here.
Here it's coming.
He wants to play with you.
We find even locally that generally the people here, I mean, as long as you're not hurting them, they don't care. They've got their own problems to worry about. It doesn't matter who you are, who you love. I mean, I don't think it would be safe if it were a same-sex couple as two males to hold their hands and walk through Walmart. They might create an issue. I don't know. I would hope not. For us to walk in, to the stores, we've been to restaurants. Typically when a couple goes to dinner and they sit in a restaurant, one person sits on one side of the table and one sits on the other side of the table. Linda and I don't do that. We sit side by side just like this when we go eat our dinners out. So it's obvious we're a couple no matter where we go. And no one's ever said anything to us. And even our servers have been very respectful. And, we've not had an issue. I don't understand why. It's an issue because two men are holding hands versus two women holding hands. I mean, I don't know where up here people are thinking that it should make a difference. It's not my cup of tea because I'm not attracted to men. But, a person who is gay, if they love somebody, they should be able to hold their hand. I don't think they should be sticking their tongue down their throat in the middle of the Walmart shopping center. But if they give them a kiss on the cheek, I love you, and they go about their business, it's like any other couple. Why is it bad? I think to the majority of the people, it's not an issue anymore. Even for the trans people, it's coming around. But since our new administration here has unleashed people's hatred, it's being more expressed among the community. So there's more here in the southern parts of the country that are not very supportive of people like me or being gay or lesbian. And in the Northeast, more accepted, and out in California, as you mentioned, is more support there.
New Hampshire, Vermont.
They're very supportive. They have laws in their state levels there that are protective of transgender people. They are requiring insurers to provide health benefits to people who are transgender. Even though the current administration is trying to say, well, you don't have to do that. They're trans, you don't have to give them insurance. These states have said, no, they are a citizen of our state, and they should have insurance if they can afford to pay for it. So there is a lot of support there in the Northeast for that. California, Washington, New York are also very supportive of the LGBT community and have laws on the books. There are pockets within each state. Again, Northern California is less supportive than Southern California, but at the state level itself, we're a protected class of citizens. Here in Florida, there is no laws in Florida. That, someone can't say something to me. If we're in a restaurant sitting side by side and someone doesn't like it, they can go to the manager and say, that's against my religion or whatever. I don't like that. You need to ask them to leave. And if the manager agrees with it, they can ask us to leave a restaurant. Or if we go to a hospital can say, no, we're not going to take your kind here. Go to another hospital. We could be refused health care.
This could happen here.
Yes, it could.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Before laws in the Northeast, it occurred there. In Baltimore, Maryland, in 2010, I believe it was, there was a transgender woman and her mother that were out visiting, and they were on their way home and got into a car accident. The transgender woman was very badly hurt, was thrown outside the vehicle, and was laying on the ground and was bleeding a lot. The emergency services arrived, and the trans person was bleeding from her lower extremities, and she was wearing jeans. They needed to see where the blood was coming from, so they had to remove her pants. Well, she had been, pre-surgery. She didn't have bottom surgery yet. She still had male genitalia there. Well, the EMS person who, discovered this stood up and said, "This is not a woman. This is a freak, and I'm not going to touch this bitch." And she lay there bleeding to death and asked, "Please help me," and they refused to help her, and she ended up dying. And that was before she died. Yeah. So that was in Maryland. And that was just 8 years ago. Maryland now has laws to protect people, and they say you can't do that. Our current administration is saying, well, if your religious belief is, then yeah, you can refuse service, but you have to refer them someplace else to get service. Well, if you're laying on the ground dying, you can't wait for another EMS tech to roll up to help you. It has to be the person who's there to can provide that service. There shouldn't be a provision for a person's religion. That I don't believe in this. I'm not going to help you. That should not occur, regardless of the person who needs the help or whoever's offering it. I understand people need to have their own religious beliefs, but we're all, again, human beings. We need to respect one another. It's a human being on the ground who needs your service, and you have that skill. Your religion should not say, I'm not doing that. Let's wait for the next CMS from across the country. That exception should never be made. And our current administration is trying to do that at a national level. It's crazy. And the thing is, what a lot of people don't realize is it's not just going to be the LGBT persons. If it is okay for a person to say, my religion says I don't have to take care of a gay person, that same privilege that they're being given can also let them say, you're a black person, I'm not going to take care of you. Or you're a woman who takes pills to prevent birth, I'm not going to give you medications. That is what they're opening the door to. That a person who can cite their religious belief to refuse service of any kind to another person because they don't believe it should happen. It should not happen in this country. It shouldn't.
I think I read on your website that you were part of the investigation in the Orlando attack.
The Pulse.
What was your part of? What was your role in the investigation?
It's because of our connections with the persons in the different communities. The Department of Justice called us and said they need to have Spanish-speaking people who are part of the community to be able to talk to their investigators. Do we know people who we could refer to them?
It actually happened on Latin night. So there was a lot of Spanish-speaking persons there. So they had family members coming looking for their loved ones, and they needed people who understood not only Spanish, but also the LGBT portion.
So it was, what our role was to help them identify these people that they could get in contact with. Say, we need your help, to help these family members looking for their loved ones who had just been killed. So we referred, to several organizations and local community members, church members that we knew over there, for people who have a religious preference. Yes, there's a church who supports LGBT, and they are in Orlando. You can get their help as well. So we provided those resources to the Department of Justice.
Awesome. There's a question about your cooperation with FBI. What was your job to help FBI, or what was?
We're on their Multicultural Advisory Committee, and what that is, it's people from different groups. We represent the LGBT community, and we all get together every quarter and talk about what our needs are. Is there anything going on within our community that has people afraid? Anything that the FBI should be aware of that's going on, or maybe they're targeting us for some type of activity. And there's the Greek community, the Muslim community, the Jewish community, and all different minorities. And we meet every 3 months to talk
all
about.
All together?
Yep.
Yes. Yeah, we all sit at a table in the FBI headquarters down in Tampa and explain why we're there, who we're representing. If we have any issues in our community, one lets the FBI know we need help with an issue, and the other members that are sitting at the table, oh, well, you're human too. You have crazy things going on in your neighborhood too. Even though we are LGBT, we still have people who murder people here, and we still have people who are taking drugs here that shouldn't be, and we have all the same issues that everybody else has. There's just something else different about us. So it just kind of helps them understand better that you need to get past all that stuff and come down to you're a human being, I'm a human being, and we have the same needs, the same desires. We're not any different than you in that regard.
This is interesting.
So it's been fun. We've actually done a training for the FBI down there. Their agents didn't understand transgender persons. And so we had gone on and done a training for them. And we show a video. At that time we did the training, it was, we have an event here called the Transgender Day Remembrance. It happens every year in November, where we remember and say the names of persons who've been killed in the previous year. So I had a video that I had made of the persons that were killed that year, and I presented that at the FBI training. And I said, you've seen all these women's faces up here. The vast majority were transgender women of color. There were a few Hispanic trans women, and there were many, many, many African-American trans women up there that were killed because of who they were. And some of you were sitting in the audience saying, well, they were involved in drug trafficking, or they were in prostitution. They deserve what they got. And I said, but did you ever stop to think why they got into those positions? They were in prostitution, and they were into the drug business because they were refused a job. I was fired from my job. And, I'm not a black person. I'm not a Hispanic person, and I still lost my job. It's easier for me to get a job than a person who does have those traits.
You answered pretty much all the questions before even us asking them. So.
Ještě tady otázka. Co si myslí o tom, jak je LGBT komunita reprezentovaná v popkultuře? Seriále, reality show, odráží to podle nich alespoň trochu realitu v Americe?
Aha, dobrá otázka. What do you think about the LGBT community being displayed in a pop culture, like TV shows, to jsou jakože seriály, movies and so on. Is it somewhere near the reality, or because like 20 or 30 years ago there were some TV series where there has to be some black person,
right?
Just because, like,
right.
So do you think that is it nowadays TV shows are real, or do they reflect the reality, or is it more like when they are writing the script? Okay, let's say we have a fat guy, we have a slim guy, we have a hot chick, we have a ugly chick,
right.
And we have to have like LGBT
right.
person.
The LGBT community is being more represented in the media now and in movies, but in many cases, as far as a transgender person is concerned, the actor or actress that is playing the part of the transgender person is not transgender, and that's our community's biggest comment now. Is you are trying to portray us. Why not put a transgender person who is an actor in that role, rather than some big movie star who has to pretend to be a person like me or a trans man. There are shows that are off network media, like in I think Hulu or Netflix. They have their own series. In those cases, in private media, we're presented as as our authentic selves. There's a show called Orange is the New Black, and Laverne Cox is a transgender woman, and she's out on Amazon or in that series, nationally broadcast. So in those instances, yes, but on the major networks, people are acting like us, they're not being us.
The question is, how do you break those stereotypes of those people that think that heterosexuality is the only way, and so on? How do you treat these people? How do you persuade them to think or to realize that there are also other ways?
For some, we're not going to change their mind, and that's not really our role. We're there to educate the persons who have open minds, like you, that are willing to listen to another side of the story. Some people are just very rigid, and no matter what we say, they're not going to change their minds, because that's what their pastor told them, that's what their preacher told them, that's what their parents told them. It's programmed in, and we're wasting our time trying to convert and educate those people. They don't want to be educated, because only that way is the right way. There is no other way for them. So we don't waste our time with that. We look for persons, who are open to hearing another side of the story. Get to know us for who we are, and then find out, we are really good people. We're not the mass murderers and pedophiles that people think we are. We are good people. Are there pedophiles and murderers and everybody in this community? Yes. But are they in the heterosexual community? Absolutely. I mean, how many Catholic priests have been caught having gay sex? Or having it with a child. I'm not a Catholic priest, and I've never had that occur. So you can't compare me to anybody else. You can't compare this community or any community to another community based on one person's history. It's not the right thing to do.
To a pak je tady taková už poslední, bych tak završila otázku.
The last question.
Jako bych to tak úplně zakončila tím, a to je právě jakože jak přišli k tomu, že podporují jakože RV fundy a že jim poskytují jakože takový azyl a jestli se setkali za tu dobu, co tohle dělají s někým jako nepříjemným.
I already asked you before when we had the dinner, what brought you to do the Boondockers welcome thing, and have you ever encountered or experienced someone who was really mean?
We have not.
Never. Everybody who's come here as a guest has been very friendly and very open to us. But we make on our profile very clear that we're a couple. We're a same-sex couple. I don't say I'm transgender because that's a whole other horse we've got to ride. But
I didn't know that at first. I knew that you are two females, so I was okay. But I realized that after I searched and read on your website. And I was like, I got it now.
Yes, you passed. You passed.
No, it's not like this.
No. But you have to understand that when you're changing gender to be your authentic self, in your eyes, you finally are that person looking in the mirror that you've seen in your heart's eye your whole life. So to go from being who you were to who you should be, it's a whole different journey. And when Karen and I started this, I said our whole goal is for people to say, like, and just not be sure. We never wanted somebody to say, oh, that is. We would be happier for them. When you're walking down the street, you look at people's eyes. You don't necessarily eye them up and down. In the beginning, Karen would not look at people in the eyes. She was a tall woman. She's a bigger built woman. And she wouldn't look at people. And I said, people are going to look at you longer because all they're looking for is that eye contact. You're not giving it. So that's why people are looking at you. Hold your head up, look at people in the eye, and you'll find that they're not staring. You know, because that's what you thought in the beginning.
But I wanted to say that it wasn't because the thing that I said, I got it, was not because of this, but because there is written that you met in 73, got married, and I was like, hey, I didn't know that it was possible to marry the same sex that early in the United States. So I was like, oh, that's a surprise. But after I read the website, I said, I got it now. How is it possible?
And even people who don't know, when we say we just renewed our 35th, they're like, you could legally get married back then, and we say, yeah.
We were legally married. It doesn't matter if we were different genders then.
But again, there's certain people you tell things to, and there's other people that you make them question. You know?
Yeah, and not that we want to make people question. You know, we want them to realize it on their own, but to first get to know us as human beings.
Yeah.
I know more people will accept a lesbian couple. It's more difficult for people to accept someone who's transgender now. You know, they're learning, and we're getting there. But I didn't want to put that in somebody's hand. Again, we don't want to give someone a burden to deal with. Come and get to know me first. You know, and then you decide whether you like a person who's transgender or not. You know, so I make clear we're a same-sex couple. I never tell anybody that I'm a transgender person. You know, they can discover it.
That's what we already said earlier. That you know about LG, like lesbians and gays. There's so many resources and everything, and it's publicly visible in media and so on. But not this. This is kind of new for someone. So.
Which is why we need to get out and speak.
Yeah.
Just why we need to share our story with as many people as we
after
can.
hearing your story, I'm like, oh, I wouldn't, survive it. I mean, I completely understand why you thought about, taking your life and so on.
And we even, my niece in Pennsylvania had a friend whose parents said they understood he was on testosterone, he was doing good, and then all of a sudden their parents decided, no, we're not doing this anymore.
But that was a religious problem. Their church leadership said, that's not right, we can't have that. So they withdrew the hormones from the child and told them that, no, you can't do this, you're not transgender, this is the devil, and so forth. Well, that child walked out and stepped in front of a train and took his own life.
Yeah. See, and that's where my heart breaks. How can you choose anything over your children? And I'm saying that from somebody who told the woman that they loved, I can't hold you back, move out. We have 4 kids that didn't ask to be here. We asked them to be here. We didn't go into a lot of the detail because our talk's an hour and a half. But I think people need to know the decisions that people make. And I chose the children over Karen because they were 6, 5, 3, and an infant.
You have to take care of them. Yes.
They needed somebody to be there on their side. And back in that time, it wasn't understood. Lesbian and gay wasn't understood. This was like a whole new realm. We looked for counseling. We found one lady. She was no help at all.
No.
But
her issue, when we went to our first counselor, the children are going to be fine. They can't catch this. The concern was all for Linda and the children. I didn't need any help apparently from the counselor. There was just no discussion about me at all. It was, are you guys okay? So the counselor had an issue with me being transgender. So we had to find another counselor. And then that counselor was better, but then she referred us to resources that were not for the community of people that I'm part of. It was completely different.
Well, that's where that T umbrella. She had us go into a group. They used to be called transvestites. And they were men who liked to dress as women more for a fetish. You know, fishnet stockings, boas, hairy chest, but...
We have a friend like this.
Okay. And it's not that they're bad people, but they enjoy that. That's what they enjoy. But when they take their clothes off at night, they're happy being who they are. They just enjoy that side. So she said, I have a support group for you, and I want you to go to downtown Philly, and there's a support group. So we got a babysitter for the 4 kids. Karen and I went. She was so excited to finally meet other trans people, to go to a place. I was looking for other resources for me. And we walked in, and all I could think was, oh my gosh, so this is what we have if we move forward in this? Because that's all that was available. Or that's all that they could send us to.
There was nothing for a person, you know, it was 2 separate terms back then. It was transsexual and transvestite. So there was no transsexual support group back then. It was all transvestite. You know.
And it was a party. It was a place for them to go out and put on their boas and all their beautiful bikinis.
And their really short shorts. And,
and I'm walking in thinking, oh my gosh, no. Like, I can see this at the next scout meeting. Baseball. I mean, so that was what was in my head. That's all that I had experience with. You know, and that's when we said, that's not going to happen. So, but they've come a long way. There's more help available now. And for parents who are going through it, if they know there's hope.
See, in our case, we always had the underlying love for one another. You know, regardless of all the things we've been through, you couldn't separate us. I mean, I left for a little while, but I could not stay on the road. You know, Linda said, yes, come back, you know, and so we found a way to make it work.
I was the Mimi.
Yeah.
I wore the pants. The whole time, I've always worn the pants.
But, you know, we made it work for us. You know, I needed my family. I needed Linda. I needed the kids to be part of my life. You know, when she said, you know, that we had the children there and that they didn't ask to come, you know, and she had to be responsible for them, it didn't mean that I did not want to be responsible. You know, it was a situation that back then nobody understood, and she did not want to have the children exposed to. And I understood, so I left. But, you know, you cannot take the heartstrings in people who are attached that closely. And regardless of whatever else happens in life, you'll find a way to make things work. And we did. We always have. You know, we've been through so many things in 45 years as a couple. You know, both of our parents passing away, and, you know, my transition, Linda getting cancer. I mean, many, many things we've been together and fought through and continued our relationship. And it's something we want people to know. You know, that our relationship can stay together through anything, as long as that initial connection is there, communication is there, and you're committed to one another.